Hi, boys and girls. It's Mr. Chalfant, and we are on the last two chapters of our story, Henry Huggins by Beverly Cleary. I hope you're enjoying the story. It is my favorite book to end the year for third grade. This chapter is called The Pale Pink Dog. I wonder what that means. Boys and girls, let's take a look down at my questions down below. Have you ever done something that just didn't turn out the way you wanted? Have you ever been in a situation you wish could be over, but you had to stay until the very end? What did Henry plan to do with Ribsy that didn't turn out as he expected? How did he handle it? Boys and girls, that sentence is a question. So I've just added a question mark there. Boys and girls, enjoy the pictures as I read our story. And I will tell you, the way chapter 5 ends leads us to the biggest problem and the biggest situation that Henry has faced in chapter 6. So pay attention. The Pale Pink Dog. When Henry woke up one Monday morning in the spring, the first thing he thought was 5 more days until Saturday. On Tuesday, the first thing he thought was 4 more days till Saturday. By Wednesday, he felt as if Saturday would never come. It all began when Henry and Ribsy made their weekly trip to the Lucky Dog pet shop to buy horse meat. "Well, if it isn't Henry and Ribs," exclaimed Mr. Pennycuff. "Do you have your entry blank for the dog show?" "What dog show?" asked Henry. "Didn't you hear? The park department is having a dog show in the park next Saturday. Boys and girls up to 16 years old may enter their dogs. The Woofy's Dog Food Company is giving out prizes. You'd better take an entry blank and fill it out. A fine dog like Ribsy is sure to win a prize." Ribsy wagged his tail. "Well," said Henry doubtfully, "he's an awfully good dog, but he isn't any special kind. I mean, he isn't a cocker spaniel or a bulldog or anything." "That doesn't matter in this show. Now you just take this blank and fill it out. See, here's a place for dogs of mixed breeds, like Ribsy." "Gee, thanks," said Henry. "I think I will." He took his entry blank and 2 pounds of horse meat, and he and Ribsy ran all the way home. When they came to Klickitat Street, Henry saw Scooter and Robert playing catch. Mary Jane and Beezus and her little sister Ramona were standing under a snowball bush, shaking petals down over themselves and pretending it was snowing. "Hey, look!" yelled Henry, waving the paper at them. The children gathered around to look at his entry blank. "I'm going to enter Ribsy," said Henry. "He'll win a prize. Mr. Pennycuff said so." "Ah, Ribsy's just an old mutt," scoffed Scooter. "He is not. He's a smart dog, and besides, it says he doesn't have to be any special kind of breed. See, it says, dogs of mixed breeds." "Say, look at the list of prizes," said Robert. "Woofy's dog food, squeaking mice, feeding dishes, leashes, movie tickets, beanies, silver loving cups, a whole lot of stuff." "If they're giving out silver cups, I'm going to get a blank entry form for Princess Patricia of Terrabrook. She's a better dog than Ribsy," said Mary Jane. "Princess who?" demanded Scooter. "Princess Patricia of Terrabrook. That's Patsy's real name. She has a pedigree, and I know she'll win a silver cup." Patsy was Mary Jane's cocker spaniel. "You know," said Robert thoughtfully, "I'm going to enter Sassy. She's getting kind of old, but she's still pretty lively, and she might win a movie ticket or something." Beezus and Ramona didn't have a dog. They had a cat, 3 white rats, a turtle, and 1 guppy. Beezus said she knew where she could borrow a puppy named Puddles. "Well, I guess I might as well enter Rags," said Scooter. "He is the smartest dog around here. He can even sit up and shake hands. And he's all Airedale, too. He isn't any mixed breed like that old mutt you found." "Ribsy isn't old, and he isn't a mutt either, and he can sit up, too. He's a better dog than your old Rags, and he'll win a better prize. I'll bet he wins a silver cup." "Ha! Don't make me laugh," scoffed Scooter. "If he'd been any good, his folks wouldn't have let him run away." At last, Saturday finally came. Henry jumped out of bed as soon as he woke up, because he had a lot to do before the dog show at 10 o'clock. At breakfast, he stopped gulping his cereal to ask, "Mom, can I give Ribsy a bath in the bathtub?" "May I give Ribsy a bath in the bathtub?" corrected his mother. "May I give Ribsy a bath in the bathtub?" "Can't you use the laundry tub in the basement the way you usually do?" his mother asked. "But Mom, this is special for the dog show. I want to do an extra good job on him this time. If I can get him good and clean, I just know he'll win a silver cup." Mrs. Huggins sighed. "Yes, Henry, you may give Ribsy a bath in the bathtub if you'll promise to clean up the bathroom afterward." "Thanks, Mom. I'll clean it up. Excuse me, please." "Henry, I'm afraid you didn't eat much breakfast. I hope Ribsy does win a silver cup, but I wouldn't count on it too much if I were you. After all, he's just a mongrel." "He isn't a mongrel, Mom. He's a mixed breed, and I know he's a better dog than any dog around here. Come on, Ribsy." Ribsy followed Henry into the bathroom. When Henry began to run the water into the tub, he looked at Henry, and then at the water. Then he tucked his tail between his legs and he started to sneak out of the bathroom. "Oh, no, you don't." Henry grabbed him by the collar. He put his arms around Ribsy's middle and he lifted him into the tub. Ribsy sure was heavier than he had been that day about a year ago when Henry carried him onto the bus. Because this was a very special occasion, Henry did not use flea soap. He used his mother's shampoo. Ribsy whimpered. Henry rubbed the shampoo on him and worked it into a thick lather. He rubbed and scrubbed. The suds foamed thick and white until Ribsy, except for his face, was hidden in mounds and mounds of thick lather. "Now you ought to be good," said Henry. He scooped up handfuls of water from the tub and he poured them over the dog. He poured and poured, but the soap lather just grew thicker and thicker. If only he hadn't used so much shampoo. He tried mopping Ribsy with his washcloth. That helped a little, but it still wasn't fast enough. He had an idea. He moved Ribsy around so that he faced the end of the tub, and he turned the shower on him. Ribsy tried to jump, but Henry held him down. Ribsy raised his head and howled. "Henry," his mother called, "what on earth are you doing to that poor dog?" "Just washing him," answered Henry, and he turned off the shower. Ribsy shook himself. Henry used 4 bath towels on him, and he still wasn't dry. "Oh well, it's a warm day. Maybe the sun will dry him off," thought Henry. He took one of the towels and quickly wiped it over the floor in the tub. "Henry, I have to go downtown this morning. I hope you and Ribsy have good luck at the dog show." Mrs. Huggins had her hat on, ready to leave. "Thanks, Mom. Say, have you seen the leash? It says on the entry blank that all dogs must be on a leash." "I think you left it in the basement," Mrs. Huggins said as she went out. Henry ran down to the basement. At the bottom of the stairs, he found the leash. At least, it had once been a leash. Now it was chewed into about a half of a dozen pieces. Henry looked hurriedly around for something else to use in its place. If only he had more time. The only thing he could find was his mother's rainy day clothesline that was normally kept down in the basement. After climbing up on an apple box to untie it, he ran upstairs and fastened one end to Ribsy's collar. It was longer than a leash, but it would have to do. When Henry went out on the front porch, he saw Beezus and Ramona coming down the street. Beezus was carrying a squirming black puppy that kept trying to lick her face. "Puddles, you stop that," she commanded, and she set him on the sidewalk. Puddles was wearing a red bow on his collar, and Henry was pleased to see that Ribsy wasn't the only dog with a rope for a leash. "Come on, Henry, we'd better hurry," said Beezus. Ribsy sniffed at the puppy and decided to ignore him. "Hey, look!" exclaimed Henry. "There's Mary Jane with Patsy, and Robert and Sassy up there, ahead. We'd better run." When they reached the park, Henry saw that already there were hundreds of boys and girls and dogs there ahead of them. Henry had never seen so many dogs. There were Boxers and Great Danes, Pekingese and Airedales, Cockers, St. Bernards, Pomeranians, Beagles, Poinsetters, and just plain dogs. Some of them, like Puddles, were wearing ribbons on their collars. Some of them wore sweaters, and some of them had on little paper hats. A loudspeaker on a sound truck blared out, "Take your entry blanks to the registration desk by the tennis courts." "Come on, Ribsy." Henry found his way through the crowds of children and the dogs to the registration desk, and there he waited in line to weigh Ribsy on a big scale. At first, Ribsy didn't want to be weighed, but Henry and a Boy Scout managed to shove him up on the scale and keep him still long enough to see that he weighed 28 pounds. "You've sure grown a lot heavier in a year," said Henry. "Maybe we shouldn't call you Ribsy anymore." After the dog was weighed, a lady gave Henry a yellow cardboard armband. It had "Woofie's Dog Food" printed. "Woofie's Dog Food. Woofies make dogs woof for joy" printed on the side. And below that there was a space for the kind of dog, weight class, and the ring in which the dog was to be shown. The lady wrote on it, "Mixed breed, 25 to 40 pounds, ring 3. Henry led Ribsy toward a sign with "Ring 3" printed on it, over by the flower beds. Ribsy stopped to shake himself, and then, before Henry knew what was happening, he dashed over to the flower bed and he rolled in the dirt. Do you see him doing that down here? Oh no. It was too late. "Hey, cut that out!" yelled Henry. "You're getting all dirty." It was too late. Henry pulled Ribsy, streaked with mud, out of the flowers. Henry tried to brush off the dirt, and then he tried to rub it off with his handkerchief, but he only smeared it. He was discouraged. Why had he bragged so much about his dog? Now he would never win a prize. When Henry reached ring 3, he saw that it was made of a rope tied to 4 stakes driven into the ground, and inside there was a table piled high with the prizes that Henry had read about. Henry looked at the silver cup, and he thought that it sure would look nice on his dresser. Not that he had a chance now with a muddy dog. He noticed that some of the boys had brought brushes and were brushing their dogs. He wished that he had thought to bring a brush. The day was warm. Henry sat down on the grass with the rest of the boys and girls just to wait for the judging to start. He kept trying to brush some of the dirt off of Ribsy. In the ring next to his, he saw a snow-white dog. The dog's owner was brushing him and sprinkling white powder on him to make him look whiter. Henry thought of an idea. If only he had time, he could run home for a can of his mom's talcum powder to sprinkle on the white parts of Ribsy. Talcum powder is like baby powder. That would cover up the dirt. It didn't matter about the yellow and the black and the brown parts that didn't show up there. The dirt didn't show up there much. Just then, the voice boomed over the loudspeaker. "We're going to postpone the judging for a little while, because we have a real treat for all you kids. Maud, the trained mule, is going to entertain you." The children all started toward the truck to see Maud. All of the children, that is, except Henry. He was not interested in any trained mule. He wanted Ribsy to win a silver cup, and here was his chance. He could run home and back while Maud the mule performed. "Come on, Ribsy," he yelled. "We have to step on it." Followed by Ribsy, he ran as fast as he could out of the park and up the hill to his house on Klickitat Street. He rushed into his room and he snatched his hairbrush. He tore into the bathroom and he grabbed a can of the white talcum He tore into the bathroom and grabbed a can of talcum powder. Then he rushed back to the park with Ribsy. The children were all still crowded around Maud. Henry was so hot and sticky that he had to just sit down on the grass to catch his breath. Ribsy was panting, and his tongue was hanging out. Henry brushed him with the hairbrush. That helped a little. Then he sprinkled powder on the big white spot on Ribsy's back. Henry was horrified. He could scarcely believe what he saw. The talcum powder wasn't white. It was pink. Who ever heard of a dog with pink spots? Quickly he tried to brush the powder off, but Ribsy was still damp from his bath, and the powder didn't brush off. So Henry decided to make all of Ribsy's white parts pink, so at least they would match. Maybe in the bright sunshine the judges wouldn't notice. He sprinkled powder on Ribsy's white ear and his left hind paw. He even sprinkled some on his white tail. Yes, Ribsy did look better with all of his light parts matching. Maybe the judges would wear dark glasses. Maud finished her act, and all of the children came back to the rings with their dogs. "Hey, look at that pink dog!" a boy exclaimed. "I've never heard of a pink dog," a girl said. "What kind is he?" "He's a mixed breed," said Henry. He put the talcum powder can in his pocket, and he decided not to say anything about it. Maybe the others would think he had some rare breed of dog. A man stood in the center of the ring, and Henry noticed that he was not wearing dark glasses. "All right," the man called. "Bring your dogs into the ring and march them around in single file." "Come on, Ribsy. They're going to start judging. You'd better behave yourself." Henry led Ribsy by the clothesline into the ring. The children walked their dogs around in a circle. Ribsy's long rope got tangled up with the other dogs' leashes. Finally, the judge directed them to stop. "Now, get your dogs ready," he ordered. Henry did not know what that meant, so he watched the other kids. Some of them knelt by their dogs and made them stand still and look straight ahead. That must be what the judge meant, so Henry knelt down beside Ribsy. Ribsy sat down. He opened his mouth and he let his long pink tongue hang out. He was thirsty. "Come on, Ribsy, stand up," begged Henry. "Be a good dog." Ribsy began to pant. "Come on, get up." Ribsy lay down on the grass and panted even harder. Henry pulled and tugged. He looked over his shoulder at the judge. The judge was looking at the ears and the teeth of a dog that was standing properly. Then he ran his hands over the dog, and the dog didn't move. "Come on, Ribsy," begged Henry. "It'll be our turn pretty soon." Ribsy closed his eyes. "I know you're thirsty. I'll get you a drink of water just as soon as I can." The loudspeaker made an announcement. "Will the Boy Scouts please take pans of water to each ring?" Henry was relieved to see a Boy Scout coming with water, but when Ribsy's turn came, he sniffed at the pan and he refused to drink. "I guess he's just used to his own dishes," explained Henry. "He just doesn't want to use the same pan as the other dogs." "I can't help it," said the Boy Scout. "It's the only one I have." Ribsy continued to pant. At last the judge came to Henry. "Well, well, a pink dog!" he exclaimed. "Yes, sir," said Henry. It was lucky his own green hair had grown out so that it could finally be cut off. A green-haired boy and a pale pink dog? That sure would have looked funny. "Come on, son, stand him up." Henry boosted Ribsy to his feet. Ribsy tried to sit down again, but Henry held up his hind end by the tail. The judge looked at his ears and his teeth, and then he ran his hands over him. He looked at his fingers afterward. They were pink. He said. When the judge had looked at all of the dogs, he ordered each dog to walk across the ring and back with his dog. He ordered each child to walk across the ring and back with his dog. Henry noticed that the boys and girls who knew about these things held the leash in the left hand. When his turn came, he held the clothesline in his left hand, and he started across the ring. Halfway across, Ribsy sat down to scratch behind his left ear. Henry pulled at the rope, and when he reached the other side of the ring and turned back, Ribsy turned the wrong way so that he crossed in front of Henry. Henry tripped on the rope and he started to change it to his right hand, But just then Ribsy ran around behind Henry to growl at another dog that was mostly spaniel. The boy who owned the spaniel pulled him away and started to the other side of the ring. Ribsy ran in front of Henry and pulled at his rope to get closer to the other dog. The harder he pulled, the tighter the rope drew around Henry's legs. The children all began to laugh. Ribsy was so excited he ran around behind Henry again and pulled the rope even tighter. The laughter increased. "Cut that out, Ribsy," Henry ordered. Looking over his shoulder at his dog, "Cut that out, Ribsy," Henry ordered, looking over his shoulder at his dog. He felt silly standing there all wound up in his clothesline. "Come on, son," said the judge. "We can't waste time. A lot of other boys and girls want to show their dogs too." Now, on top of all of his troubles, the judge was upset with him. Henry knew that an upset judge would never give him a silver cup. Discouraged and feeling even sillier, Henry twirled around like a top to unwind himself from the rope. Relieved to have that part of the show over, he dragged Ribsy to the side of the ring. In a few minutes, he could take his dog home and just give him a drink. After each child had walked his dog, the judge went around the ring pointing to different boys and girls, saying, "All right, you stay in the ring." He looked at Henry and his dog. He said, "All right, you stay in." As the contestants left the ring, the Boy Scouts handed them prizes. Those who left first won the smallest prizes, and the longer they stayed in the ring, the bigger was the prize. "Hey, Henry, are you still in?" Henry looked up. Robert and Sassy were standing outside the rope. "Yes," answered Henry, "and I sure don't see why. Ribsy did everything wrong." "Did Sassy win anything?" "Just a dog whistle." Robert took another look at Ribsy. "Say, how did he get all pink?" "Ah, mind your own beeswax," said Henry. He pretended to be watching the judge carefully. One by one, the man asked the boys and girls to leave the ring. "Look what I won." Henry saw Beezus waving a rubber mouse. "See, it squeaks." She squeaked it, and then she stopped. "Look," she squealed, "Ribsy's pink." "Be quiet," said Henry as he looked at the judge. He wished he knew why he was staying in the ring, but every time the judge passed him by, he looked at Ribsy and just said, Stay in the ring." Mary Jane was the next one to see him. "See, I won a pillow for Patsy to sleep on," she said, and then she looked at Ribsy. "Why, Henry Huggins, what did you do to that poor dog? He's all pink. Just wait until your mother finds out about this." "You keep quiet," Henry said fiercely. There were only a few more boys and girls with their dogs left in the ring. Scooter was the last one to arrive. "Hi, Henry," he said. "Are you and that old mutt still in the ring? That judge must be blind. I guess Rags is a pretty good dog, just the best in his class is all, and now he has to go to another ring to compete for the best dog in the whole show." He held up a small silver cup. Like the others, he looked at Ribsy. "I must be seeing things. A pink dog?" Scooter began to laugh. He sat down on the grass and laughed so hard that he rolled back and forth. Henry didn't think it was all that funny. By that time, Henry was so hot and disgusted that all he wanted was to get out of the ring, go home, and get Ribsy a drink of water out of his own private pan. Said the judge again. At last, only Henry and another boy were left. Henry remembered that the other boy's dog had done all of the right things. The judge stepped to the center of the ring with a silver cup in his hand, and Henry was not at all surprised when the judge handed it to the other boy. He just wondered why he hadn't been asked to leave the ring yet. He thought he must have made some kind of mistake. But the judge said to Henry and the winner, "Come along to the main ring. There'll be some more judging there." Puzzled, Henry followed. Beezus and Ramona, Scooter, Mary Jane, and Robert, and their dogs followed Henry. Maybe Henry was going to win a prize after all. In the main ring were the prize winners from all of the other rings. Henry noticed 2 big silver cups on the table. and he saw his judge whispering to the other judges. They all looked at Ribsy, and Ribsy panted harder than ever. The judges had all of the winners show their dogs again. This time, Henry was not taking any chances with the clothesline getting wound around his legs. He wound it around his hands so that there was only a foot of rope between his hand and Ribsy's collar. Ribsy, though, did not behave any better the second time that he was shown than he had the first time. When Henry's turn came to lead him across the ring, Ribsy stopped to growl at a boxer, and the boxer growled back. Henry heard Scooter say, "If that mutt doesn't look out, he's going to get all bit up." Ribsy growled louder, and the snarling boxer advanced, dragging the little girl who owned him along on the end of his leash. Henry tried to pull Ribsy away, but Ribsy ignored him. The two dogs circled around one another, pulling their owners after them. Henry yanked so hard at Ribsy's collar that the dog choked. The boxer snarled and sprang at Ribsy, using his powerful front paws to knock over the smaller dog. Henry's hand was wound up in the rope, and he could not let go. He was pulled down on his stomach with his face in the grass. "Look, Henry's in a dog fight!" screamed Beezus in great excitement. The boxer's owner began to cry. Henry was so mixed up he wasn't sure what was happening. He smelled the damp grass and he felt it tickling his nose. He could hear snarls and growls and barks. He could hear children screaming and yelling. The boxer stepped on his back. "Oof," said Henry. He lifted his face from the grass just in time to see a Boy Scout try to stop the fight by throwing a pan of water at the dogs. He missed the dogs, but he didn't miss Henry. Two judges ran into the ring and grabbed the dogs by their hind legs. They yanked the snarling animals apart. "All right, son, go ahead," ordered one judge, while the other one helped the little girl hold her boxer. Embarrassed and dripping wet, Henry got up from the grass and, without looking either right or left, hurried Ribsy across the ring and back. Finally, only Henry and another boy were left. The judge stepped to the center of the ring. "The big cup for the best dog in the whole show goes to the boy with the setter." Everybody clapped when he handed the other boy one of the big silver cups, and Ribsy growled at the winner. "And now," said the judge, "the cup for the most unusual dog in the show goes to the boy with a mixed breed dog." And he handed Henry the other big silver cup. "Gee, thanks," was all Henry could say. The audience clapped, and he heard Beezus shout, "Hooray for Henry!" He sure thought Ribsy looked pleased. Everyone gathered around to admire his cup, until a newspaper photographer asked them to stand back while he took a picture of Henry and Ribsy and wrote down his name and address. Henry was going to have his picture in the newspaper. "Congratulations," said Scooter, "but I still think he's a mutt." "Well, anyway, he won a bigger cup than Rags," boasted Henry, "but I guess Rags is a pretty good dog, too. Good old Ribsy. Now we'll get you a drink of water." He led Ribsy to the nearest drinking fountain. He filled the silver cup with water, and he put it on the ground. Ribsy greedily lapped up the water, and Henry patted him. "Good old Ribsy. I knew you wouldn't drink out of any dish but your own." Boys and girls, that was the Pale Pink Dog. And tomorrow's chapter, and the last chapter, is for chapter 6, called Finders Keepers. Boys and girls, we are down to just one more day of school tomorrow. Please do your very, very best on your work today, and I promise on Wednesday, our last day, we'll have some fun activities to close the year. So, bye for now.